We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, if you love everything in college football, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Welcome in. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend in the comments or in the phone calls later in the show. Welcome on in. Mel Tucker has been suspended. Suspended. Okay, he's been suspended, but he's out the door, right? This is a legal process. They've made the decision to fire him. I hope we're all on the same page with this. I did an episode earlier this morning. Go watch it. We do an article on it and everything. And I stated, look, even if somehow you can prove that it wasn't really sexual harassment, he's gone. He's absolutely gone. That type of high-risk behavior, it cannot happen in this day and age. Not as a leader of young men, not as a head coach, not as the face of an athletic department. Not if you're making $100 million over the lifetime of your contract. Not when you have 85 guys in scholarship and about 25 other guys looking for you for leadership. That type of behavior, it's over. That can't be it anymore. Because what Mel Tucker has already confessed to is enough. And he's going to be fired with cause. That's my strongly held opinion. And when I put that episode out this morning, everybody agreed. I was surprised. I was, because we don't all agree on any issue. But that was enough. If you read the article, even the Michigan State message boards were like, holy, you can't, no, unacceptable. Report out early this afternoon, a little while ago. Whoa, I don't have that up. My apologies. I do not have that set up. Well, that's okay. It was Mel Tucker has been suspended. Oh, no, fired. He has been fired. And then there was going to be an interim coach and everything. Now it's a suspension. I poked around at this, and I'm going to be careful here. Allegedly, yeah, he's suspended. But allegedly, he's going to be fired. I mean, this is a legal process. So, look, I battled with the title of the show. I put Mel Tucker is suspended. I put that in the title. Because I want to be as accurate as possible. All we have is our credibility here. So I put Mel Tucker is suspended. But I think it's perfectly okay and proactive for the next live show, the next episode, or both, to put up the new Michigan State hot board list for next year, for 2024, because Mel Tucker is not going to be the head football coach. Okay? So let's get to your comments. I got to thank everybody for coming on in. And then we're going to be doing a recap of week 2. There's going to be movement in the top 25. Texas is back. Plus, the first thing we got to do is go over our picks. PATC community and your host. Have I turned from Greg the Cooler to Greg the Heater? I think so. Let's get to your comments. Let's get to it real quick here. Stephen McNeely, I appreciate the super chat. I appreciate your continuous generosity to the show to help us keep the lights on. I really am thankful for that. Thank you, Stephen McNeely. McNeely says, let's go. And we are going. Ryan Brooks says, hola. Nathan Campbell says, hi. Bruce Harris, Boomer Bill G, good afternoon. John Teal, the picture of him they keep using makes him look like a violent criminal. AMAC, howdy y'all, let's go. Craig Kirsch, Fox News on their website says he's been fired. I want to be very careful here because not officially fired, but yeah. He's not going to coach another football game at Michigan State. You cannot do that, especially at Michigan State, and especially the lady who filed the complaint. She's been at many different universities talking about violence against women. I don't know what was going on between those two. If anything was going on between those two that was consensual. But what was reported, what Mel Tucker confirmed that he did, can't do that. You cannot leave yourself. I was about to say something. It ain't good. It can't be. It cannot be. In this day and age, thank goodness, it can't be that. If you're a part of leadership, if you're going to get paid millions of dollars because you're coaching student athletes in a game that has lots of interest, lots of eyeballs, you can't do that. B-Beam, shame, Mel Tucker, dirty Mel Tucker, just cost you $80 million. Fired without cause, we believe that's what's going to happen. You lose it all. You lose that contract. Immaculate says conflicting reports. Other reports said it's just a suspension without pay for now. Legally, it's just, yeah. It's going to end up being a difference without a difference. There is really no difference. This is a legal process, so he's suspended. He's not fired right now because of the legal process. Now, the press conference is going on right now at Big Ten Network. So keep your head on a swivel. Let me know in the chat what exactly the Michigan State leadership is talking about. Who's on the hot board? Yeah. Well, I was going there, and then I don't know. That's hilarious. Half the report says he's actually fired. Others says suspended. Again, don't get too deep into the weeds here on this. He's suspended legally right now. But he's going to hit the bricks here pretty soon. They need to stay far away from Leopold. I was about to say they need to stay away from Joe Rossi, the Minnesota Golden Gophers defensive coordinator. But Joe Rossi's going to be a head coach somewhere next year. So if Michigan State's it, then go to it, Joe Rossi. Thank you for your service at the great, incredible defensive coordinator for the Gophers so many years over the last 3 or 4 years. Unbelievable job. I think he's got to be on the hot board list. He's got to be on everybody's Big Ten hot board list. Joe Rossi, defensive coordinator, Minnesota Golden Gophers. Would Lance Leopold go to the Big Ten in Michigan State? I don't know. Lance Leopold, to me, is a guy who's set at Kansas because I don't know how many more years he wants to put into it. It's hard to... I don't want to be accused of ageism. Lance Leopold could be the new head coach of Michigan State. He's definitely got to be on a hot board list. But I remember him and his wife, or he was talking for his wife. He was saying, I don't think we're going to leave Lawrence. I think that's it for him. He's built programs to get to this level, and I think that's it. That's just my opinion. That is just my opinion. It doesn't matter if Tucker's guilty or not. This is Michigan State's way out of the contract. He's already guilty of something in which he should lose his job for. That's my opinion. I mean, my goodness. Hit the bricks. Hit the bricks. Jay, go blue. Bye-bye, Tucker. Anyways, what's the deal with the Pac-2? Yeah, what is the deal with the Pac-12? We'll talk about that later in the show. But yeah, what is going on? Are they going to be able to do a reverse merger? Reverse merger? Could they become the Pac? What would it be? Pac-14? Pac-14. You got to bring in all the Mountain West schools. And then you'd be able to maintain the Pac-12 network. The $1 million worth of assets in the Pac-12 network. Could they pull this off? There might be a chance. I think it's still less than 50%, but it's a live long shot. It's not just a dead long shot. It's a live long shot. I give Oregon State, Washington State a lot of credit. I think go for it. Go for it. Serve your self-interest. Do what you have to think. Go swing away. Swing away. It could work. It could work. If he hits the bricks now, good chance enough that team also hits the bricks to the point that they may not be able to field the team. Worst case scenario for him. Very good point, Immaculate. Now, if he leaves now, you have the 30-day window of people leaving. It opens up. It opens up. I don't know how much room all these schools have at this time of the year. Everyone's sort of filled up, right? With their 85 scholarships. But that would be a huge concern. I think they would still be able to field the team, but they're definitely going to lose their top guns on the squad. But I don't think that's the reason why I've been told the reasons why it's a suspension and not a firing. It's a legal process. It's going to take a few days. John Till, thank you for your super chat. No numbers, just call it the pack, and that's that. Okay, let's get to, I appreciate the super chat, John. I appreciate the super chat for your continued generosity to the show. I appreciate you so very much. Let's get to, we're going to take some phone calls on the Mel Tucker. Look, keep it clean. We all know what happened. We all know what Mel Tucker did, at least to a certain extent. Keep it clean. This is a family college football YouTube channel. I hate covering this sort of stuff, but this is important. You cannot have grown men who are leading other young men to become grown men doing these type of acts. Not in a position of leadership, or really anywhere. John, I'm sure Dion has room to accept linemen from Michigan State. Very interesting. Very interesting comment from John. Thanks again for your super chat. I think they do have room, to be honest with you. I think they do have room. Okay, let's get through the and then we'll go through a roundup of games, and then we're going to go for phone calls. You can talk about anything college football week 2. It's week 2 roundup. Talk about your team, celebrate your win, cry in your loss, whatever you want to do on your phone call. Give us a phone call a little bit later here in the show. Illinois at Kansas. Peek around the corner. I took a hit. Illinois did not cover. The PATC community got it right. Overwhelmingly taking the Kansas Jayhawks. So, right here, right now, PATC community is 1-0. And myself, well, I'm 0-1. The second game, Nebraska, Colorado, both myself and the community took Colorado to cover -2.5. I did think it was going to be close. And I was absolutely wrong, but I still get the victory. I'm 1-1. The PATC community is 2-0. Notre Dame at North Carolina State. And I took North Carolina State. And I was wrong. They got the doors blown off them in the second half. So now suddenly I'm 1-2. But the community, the PATC community, took the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Took Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So the PATC community is 3-0. Miami of Florida, +4.5 against Texas A&M. We both took Miami of Florida. This was my 5-star lock of the week. I cannot believe this line was +4.5. I still don't understand it, but we took advantage of it. I took advantage of it. You guys with your votes took advantage of it. And now I'm 2-2 for the week. And the PATC community is 4-0. 4-0. Iowa State, I took the under 36.5. What was the final score? 20-13, 33 points. I got it right. I'm 3-2. The PATC community went over 36.5. It was 50-50 on the voting. One more vote went in overtime, and the PATC community took over. I'm 3-2. The PATC community is 4-1. Texas at Alabama. I told you. I told you about the Alabama slippage. I talked about it for months and months and months. Alabama is not the Alabama of last year, the year before, the year before, the year before, the year before, the year before. Slippage is there. They're still going to be a very good team. They're still going to be contenders to win the division and all that. But they are not the Alabama team that I don't think they're going to get to the SEC championship game once again. I had Texas winning this game. I took +7. However, overwhelmingly, the PATC community took Alabama to cover. They were wrong. I was right. So now we're both at 4-2. We're both at 4-2 with 2 games to go. Oregon and Texas Tech. We both took Oregon and we got the backdoor cover. Very fortunate. Very fortunate. Last drive, interception. Oregon runs it back for a pick 6. That's the only reason we covered in this very close game. But we both got it right. 5-2. 5-2. And, well, this went pear-shaped for both of us. It did not go over 61.5 points. Mississippi won. They won the game, but what is going on with their running attack? What happened to Quinshon Judkins? He's looking normal. He's looking like a human being. First 2 weeks out of the gate, not very impressive. What is going on? That has me a little bit nervous for Ole Miss as they continue down the season. So we both finished 5-3. We both finished 5-3. That means that my record is, get this, 11-9. 11-9. I was 6-6 going into this week. I've been 5-3 the last 2 weeks. I'm 11-9. That means I'm no longer Greg the Cooler. I'm Greg the Heater. So you got to call me Greg the Heater in the chat room or in the phone calls, or you're going to be in a lot of trouble with the moderator who rules with an iron fist. This week, I'm Greg the Heater. Now, going 11-9, still not very good for Vegas because you got to include the juice. I'm barely above the water. But I'm on a roll. I feel it. I am Greg the Heater. And the PATC community, you went from 2-10. That was your record going into it. Now you are 7-13. 7-13. I'm 11-9. PATC community is 7-13. But we both got some momentum going forward. Okay, now, Ryan Brooks says 11-9 makes you Greg the room temperature. 11-9 is the best record, best winning percentage I've had against the spread. 12 months, Greg the thermostat, Greg the electric gas or electric heater, Greg the single room heater. Ooh, that's a shot. That's a shot. Look, I'm on a roll now. I'm on a roll. This is how it starts. Let's take a look. 1 second here. Let's take a look at these games real quick. Let's do a roundup. We got the ACC. We'll go through this real quick. Louisville, as we know, defeated Murray State Thursday night, 56-0. Florida State, number 4, Seminoles, on a roll. They kill Southern Miss. Notre Dame, fighting Irish, 45-24. They got everything going. They've got everything. They've got all the tools. Notre Dame, fighting Irish, Ohio State Buckeyes in a couple weeks. Massive game. North Carolina Tar Heels, 40-34. They snuck out with the victory. We'll talk about more of the Tar Heels later in the week as they play my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers at North Carolina here this Saturday. Duke, they did not take a step back. They did what they should have done. They smoked Lafayette 42-7. In Miami, Florida, This seemed to be the lock of the week. 48-33, Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher is not the answer. Jimbo Fisher, somebody, the boosters are going to get together. And I think they're going to buy out Fisher at the end of the year. It's not going to get any better, ladies and gentlemen. Jimbo Fisher doesn't have it anymore. Anyways, Miami of Florida takes it to the Aggies. Clemson, 66-17 over Charleston Southern. Wake Forest defeats SEC Vanderbilt. SEC took it on the chin all this weekend once again. Purdue beats Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's running game, non-existent in this game. If you can't run against the Boilermakers, you can't run the ball. And the quarterback, Grant Wells, I've never been a fan of his at all. Virginia Tech's going to have trouble scoring points all year. Boston College is going to have a very difficult year as well. They lost to Northern Illinois in the first week, with the quarterback Rocky Lombardi going 13-29 against the Boston Eagles. And then Northern Illinois laid an egg this weekend. They're just not a very good program, and Boston College lost to them and barely beat Holy Cross. Virginia lost this game. This game went back and forth. James Madison 36, Virginia 35. Virginia's football program is in very rough shape. Georgia Tech, they do have a pulse. They defeated South Carolina State 48-13. Garrett Schrader, the quarterback of Syracuse, he's got moxie. 48, Western Michigan 7. Look at this. Cincinnati 27. Pittsburgh Panthers 21. Big road victory for the Bearcats. Now, Emory Jones, he might have came down to earth a little bit in his play, but holy smokes. Cincinnati Bearcats secondary, their defense. The Pittsburgh Panthers struggled mightily just to complete a pass. I don't know what their passing percentages was. I guess I could pop the box score up, but it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. Are we looking at a fantastic Cincinnati Bearcats secondary once again? You remember that secondary a couple years ago? Cincinnati Bearcats? Very difficult to throw against. Are we looking at the same thing again at Cincinnati? Cincinnati, that is a big, big road victory for the program. First year as a Big 12, defeating ACC school Pittsburgh at home. Let's quickly look at the Big 12. Kansas rolls over Illinois 34-23. Jalen Daniels is back. Devin Neal never left. Kansas providing enough defense, takes and beats up the Illinois Fighting Illini. We talked about it earlier. Texas is back. Quinn Ewers. Alabama don't have a quarterback. We talked about it for months. They went in the transfer portal and they got Tyler Buchner. He's not the answer. But the main problem with Nick Saban is he went and got Tommy Rees. And you all know how I feel about Tommy Rees. Probably a good guy, but he's not a good offensive coordinator. Well, we'll talk about it again. I've talked about it a lot for many months. This is Alabama's slippage here, 2023. That's not the only game Alabama's going to lose. Utah survives and defeats Baylor on the road without Cameron Rising. Utah's 2-0. I got a question for the Ute fans in the chat room. When does Cameron Rising come back? When does he come back? Oregon and Texas Tech, back and forth. And Oregon comes back and wins 38-30. Texas Tech goes 0-2. Can they get it together in Big 12 play? Will they be able to get it together in Big 12 play? And Oregon Ducks, they are set now. They're set to compete against the Washington Huskies, the Utah Utes, and the USC Trojans, and Washington State for the Pac-12 championship. Kansas State goes and wins 42-13. That program, Will Howard, from last year to this year, that program is on a roll. Oklahoma Sooners 28-11. BYU gets their offense going. They defeat Southern Utah 41-16. Iowa State. Iowa 20. Iowa State 13. And of course, Iowa has a pick 6 in that game as usual. Unbelievable. West Virginia 56. Duquesne 17. West Virginia's got to be feeling a little bit better about themselves. That's a blowout victory against a decent FCS program. We talked about the Bearcats-Panther game. UCF 18, Boise State 16. Wow. 55-yarder field goal as time expires, as you can see on the screen. Again, we talked about UCF's defense in the offseason. This might be the best defense in the Big 12. We'll see how it goes. This is UCF's first year in the Big 12, but that defense is legit. Defense is legit. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens along the way. Houston fails a two-pointer. This is a big loss for Dana Holgerson. Not a good loss at all. Rice defeats Houston 43-41. Wow. TCU wins big. Oklahoma State 27. Arizona State 15. The Cowboys start out 2-0, 1-0, and that first conference victory is a road win. That always helps. That always helps the cause. Let's go to the Big Ten. Big Ten. Indiana defeated the Sycamores 41-7 on Friday night. Illinois lost to Kansas 34-23. Michigan rolls. J.J. McCarthy has been perfect this year. Kyle McCord getting a little bit more comfortable. That's going to be problems for the rest of the Big Ten. The Buckeyes 35. Youngstown State 7. Penn State rolls 63-7. Wisconsin loses to Washington State. Wow. Tanner Mordecai. The passing offense, the numbers look okay, but it ain't quite there. Wisconsin's defense, as we talked about in the offseason, was going to take a step back. Not quite there. Washington State deserved that victory. They win by 9, 31-22. Congratulations to the Cougars. Colorado 36, Nebraska 14. What can you say? Jeff Sims, fumble here, interception there, fumble here, interception there. Colorado finally took advantage of all those mistakes. Their offense poured it on. Shedeur Sanders had great numbers. By the end of the game, he had great numbers. Colorado plays Colorado State at home next week, and Nebraska plays Northern Illinois. The Cornhuskers should get their first victory next week, but you never know. Purdue, this is a little bit of a surprise. Going on the road, defeating the Virginia Tech Hokies 24-17. Hudson Card, a whole lot better than Grant Wells. That's the story of that game. Iowa Hawkeyes survived. They defeated Iowa State 20-13 as Iowa reclaims the Cy-Hawk Trophy that they lost last year. Iowa Hawkeyes, are they favored to win the Big Ten West now? I had them ask the winner. I predicted Iowa to win the Big Ten West. I'm not moving off that position, but we shall see. Michigan State Spartans 45-14. That's probably most definitely the last head coaching game at Michigan State for Mel Tucker. Northwestern 38-17 over UTEP. They got to win this year. They got to win. Maryland started slow, finished fast, defeated Charlotte 38-20. My Minnesota Golden Gophers, well, it finally happened. Darius Taylor, the true freshman who's blowing everybody away in camp, finally gets the rock and he explodes. Darius Taylor is your new Mo Ibrahim. He's going to help out a lot. Minnesota's defense was great once again, 25-6. Rutgers 36-7. Rutgers Look at that. 13 points after 3 quarters. Then they exploded in the fourth quarter. And that shouldn't be a surprise because Kirk Shiraka, their offensive coordinator, again, we talked about it. He was going to change that offense. He makes adjustments as the game goes on. I'm very happy that Kirk Shiraka found a landing spot. I wish he would not have left Minnesota. But he's closer to home. He's with a good friend of his, Greg Schiano. And I think that combo is going to work wonders for Rutgers. Okay, let's get to the Pac-12. USC rolls up big. Washington rolls up big. Utah squeaks out a victory at Baylor. We talked about it. Oregon, big win on the road. Texas Tech. And I think they're primed to challenge for the Pac-12 championship. Between them, the Huskies, the Trojans, and the Utes. You can't count out the Utes. You can't count out the two-time defending, reigning, undisputed Pac-12 champions. And maybe you should not count out the Oregon State Beavers. 55-7. Holy smokes. Washington State, big win. Colorado, big win. Arizona goes down and defeat the Mississippi State 31-24. In UCLA, their freshman quarterback, pretty good game. He went something like 17-27. Dante Moore, pretty good game for his first starting game. Auburn 14, California 10. Suddenly California could not find the offense. And we talked about Arizona State going down to Oklahoma State. And lastly, finally, we get to the SEC. Not all that good, SEC. Not all that good. Georgia wins big. 45-3. I'm a little concerned about the running game, but they win big. Alabama loses. We talked about Bama's slippage. Tennessee rolls. LSU rolls. Ole Miss wins on the road against Tulane. Again, the running game underwhelming thus far. Texas A&M is a mess as they lose. Vanderbilt, they lose to Wake Forest. Kentucky wins 28-17. Hopefully the Wildcats improve. Hopefully they improve after this game. Not impressive. Arkansas 28-6 over Kent State. Missouri wins a close one. Middle Tennessee 23-19. Florida goes big. They win big after that loss against Utah 49-7. Mississippi State 31. Arizona 24. South Carolina win big. And Auburn 14-10. As Hugh Freeze goes 2-0 in his first 2 games as head coach. Let's get to your comments, but then we're going to quickly go to your phone calls. We've been through the games, the picks. We had a roundup games for week 2, but now I want you to give us a call here at Peek Around the Corner to talk about your concerns of your team, what you're excited about, the Mel Tucker situation, and the Pac-2 situation. Can Washington State and Oregon State be successful in stopping the other Pac-12 presidents from actually forming a board meeting for voting on the issues of assets, Pac-12 assets? Where should they go? Let me know how you're feeling on that. Greg the Furnace, you better believe it. You better believe it. John Teal, thank you for your super chat once again. Nebraska regrets picking Rule over Dion. Now, I still think Matt Rule is a great choice for Nebraska's football program. I do. Now, I talked about it on this show. I talked about it on Twitter. Jeff Sims, not a good choice. And I'm not just saying that now. I talked about it on this channel over the offseason on Twitter. I laid into that. That was a terrible transfer portal acquisition for Nebraska. And Harburg and Purdy are not answers either. Nebraska doesn't have a winning Big Ten quarterback on their roster. Their offensive line, look, here's the thing about Nebraska. They're an old team. They have grown men on their team. That offensive line is old. The defense is old. So it's going to be next year where Matt Rule flips the roster. It's year 2 and it's year 3 where hopefully for the Cornhusker fans, they see improvement. This is not the year. Now, but they're going to be competitive. I mean, they have when Nebraska played Minnesota, Minnesota was the younger team. Lot less experience. So Matt Rule, I mean, how much more are you going to develop? I'm not going to name their names, but how much more could you possibly develop some of those guys on that offensive line? You're not, man. Some of those guys on the offensive line have been missing blocks for 4 years because Scott Frost played them when they were really, really young. The offensive line is not good. And the wide receiver room is as weak as could be. So what do you got? You got a defense. Tony White, the great defensive coordinator. A 3-3-5 defense, confusing the other team's offense. And they're grown men. Nebraska's defense is legit. We talked about it before the Minnesota game. We talked about it before the Colorado game. It's legit. But they're not. Can they win 6 games this year? Yeah, they still got a shot. But man, it's going to be to go 7 years in a row without going to a bowl game. That's tough. That's tough for the great Nebraska fan base. You don't need 5 years anymore at the portal. True. But Nebraska, I think everybody's got to pump their brakes a little bit on throwing Matt Rule over the boat. It's been 2 games. They don't have a great roster. They don't have. Look, Nebraska versus Minnesota, it was a rough game, tough game. But Minnesota, like going into that game, Jeff Sims had over 630 passing attempts. Ethan Kalakmanis had like 110. Minnesota Gold Gophers was the team with a couple different offensive linemen starting. Not Nebraska. All those guys have started games. Minnesota was the defensive backfield that had new guys playing. Not Nebraska. Maybe one guy. My point is Nebraska is who they are. They were all going to come back for this year. And I think Charles Alberts knows this. I pump the brakes on Matt Rule. Pump the brakes. Maybe he doesn't get it done. But this year should not be... I think people are overstepping what they believe Matt Rule can do for Nebraska. I think he's going to be just fine. I think he could become a superstar at Nebraska, just like he was at Baylor, just like he was at Temple. But this year, the team is limited. It's physical. It's got grown men, but they definitely don't have the skill positions. They definitely don't have the offensive line. So, yes, immaculate. That's a great point. People have no patience, and Prime has made it worse. Because Deion switched the rotten. Look, I was wrong. I got to take the L. I thought Deion Sanders moved too much, too quickly, too soon. But look, he's 2-0 in the team. Look, I got the L. I'm taking the big fat L. The fat guy from Minnesota taking the big fat L in Colorado. But his success has now made everybody like, oh, we got to have success. That's just, when 2 teams play each other, one team's going to win, one team's going to lose. It doesn't mean the team that lost, doesn't mean the head coach is a complete idiot. It just means they lost. Look, wins and losses ultimately matter in the end. I get it, of course. But after 2 games, got to give Matt Rule a chance. The Jeff Sims thing was a horrible decision. And it's going to hurt the program because now offensive recruiting, some of those recruits on the team may leave. Are you going to be as successful in the transfer portal, even though you got some big NIL collectives? It does dampen the momentum that a new coach hire creates when you lose games right out of the chute. But Nebraska, at some point, is going to be competitive. At some point, they're going to win some Big Ten games. All right, I'm going to open up the phone lines. Everybody's got to be sick of me talking. We have phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Give us a call. Talk about anything college football. Mel Tucker related, week 2 related, week 3. What do you expect in week 3? We're going to talk more about week 3 games tomorrow, of course. Now, I did not do a watch party yesterday on Saturday. Went to my niece's wedding last night. John Till. Nebraska won't have a top 6 recruiting class in the Big Ten anytime soon. With the West Wing on the way, I'm talking about talent collecting. Dion is that. Good point. Good point. Hold on one second, John.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate. Can you hold on a second?
Sure.
I appreciate it, Mr. Hawkeye. John, maybe Nebraska won't have a top 6 recruiting class in the Big Ten anytime soon. I think they'll be right on the edge, right? If you include the transfer portal, they do have a big, huge, massive NIL collective. But you know what? You should be able to win without a top 6 recruiting class in the Big Ten. Some years, you should be able to win. Can you keep it going? No. Statistically says you can't. Can you battle for the national championship without a top 20 recruiting class? No. Statistics say you can't. But you should be able, in a 6-7 year span, you should be able to have a winning season. You should be able to go 6-6 without a top 6 recruiting class in the Big Ten. How do I know this? The Minnesota Golden Gophers, for goodness sake. They don't have a top. They're at the bottom every year. NIL collective, I got 2 quarters in my pocket. If I gave it to Dinkytown Athletics, I probably doubled their cash infusion for the month. But Minnesota, they beat Nebraska 5 years in a row. It's not always. Now, of course, you need a top recruiting class to get to the top. I get it. Statistics tell us this. But once in a while, in a blue moon, you should be able to compete and win some football games in the Big Ten without a top recruiting class. It's called development. It's called picking out the right guys for your program. It's talking about culture and culture fit. My goodness, Nebraska has had none of it. To me, Nebraska, well, for whatever reason, Scott Frost, as a quarterback in college football, as successful as he was brutal in determining who could play at the college football level when he's looking at high school quarterbacks. He was absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal. And that's what has cost Nebraska, among a whole lot of other things. Immaculate. Thank you, John, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Immaculate. The floor is yours. What do you got to say, Mr. Hawkeye? Who are the favorites to win the Big Ten championship?
That's right.
Big
but
Ten
you know
West.
who they're going to probably have to beat in order to get that?
The Minnesota Golden Gophers.
That's how it's looking.
And what happens every week? I mean, every year? Iowa beats the Minnesota Golden Gophers. I've already got a tick. I've got this nervous tick in my cheek already. Just thinking about that game.
You know, it's possibly the perfect scenario, as I was saying with Tony and Chad. We could win the division, very last time for the Western Division.
Yeah.
And also not get 25 points a game. Absolutely perfect.
Wait, I wasn't. Wait. I gotta get
right
my
on
laugh.
target. I mean, that's why we didn't go for 2. We only wanted 24 points.
Hold on. I gotta put this on. comment. And you're probably accurate, too. Holy smokes.
Because I don't think we're going to get it. I mean, if we're not getting 25 points now in these matchups, why do we think we're going to do that much better later? When,
yeah.
You know.
Now you're 6 points behind the average, right?
Absolutely, right? Yeah.
Holy smokes.
I mean, what if it comes down to like they're 1 or 2 points off on the average when it comes down to it, but yet we win the division? Like, what are they going to do?
I don't know.
I'm going to sit back with a drink and go, all right, let's see what you got, new AD. Are you going to make a call? Because if they lose him at that point in time, you probably lose Dad, and you probably lose Parker.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the flip side of it. Like, we want to see Brian go, but at the same time, don't really want to see Dad go because Parker's probably saying, I think I've had enough.
Well, unfortunately for the Gophers, we're going to lose our defensive coordinator. Okay, so
I have a solution.
Wait, Immaculate, I got breaking news here.
Okay.
Just hold on 1 sec. I apologize once again. This is 2 times.
I think I know what you might be saying. Go ahead.
This is 2 times I've interrupted you. I apologize.
Oh, good.
Michigan State Athletic Director, according to Brett McMurphy, Michigan State Athletic Director Alan Haller says Coach Mel Tucker suspended without pay pending outcome of the Title IX investigation. This is just a formality, source told Action Network. Mel Tucker has coached his last game at Michigan State. This is something school legally must proceed. Regarding Tucker's buyout, fired with cause, there's a lot still could come out. This is about damage control. And as I said at the beginning of the show, I struggled with the title of the show. I finally decided to put down Mel Tucker has been suspended. But it's, I don't know how I said it, but it's about he's
got some more detail for you on that.
He's fired, but he's suspended technically right now, but he's gone. So and I poked around on it, and that's what's going on. Go ahead, Immaculate. What else do you got on that?
Well, in terms of Brett, he tends to have someone from the inside tell him something, and they're probably like, "Oh, we're firing the guy. It's happening, right?" And that's the process of what's going on.
It is.
It is. But also on top of that, Nicole Auerbach reported here about a half hour ago, said the investigation into Tucker's behavior is ongoing and will not conclude until after the hearing during the week of October 5th.
Wow.
So we have at least a month of this that they're going to allow I don't want to be too cynical in this, but it's going to give the interim coaching staff at least a month to retain these guys before, they put down the hammer and then it opens up transfer portal. I'm not saying that's why they're doing it. That's just going to be the reality of how it is.
Yeah, and it might be part of why they're doing it. Yeah.
Maybe. That's sometimes I get a little cynical about that, but just the reality is that's what will happen if they fire him on October 5th.
They want to make sure that they don't do anything when it comes to the process too quickly, they want to make sure they do this in a clean way as to not to leave themselves open to anything. But as a fan, as an Iowa Hawkeye fan, as a Minnesota Golden Gopher fan, we've got a whole bunch of people in the chat who are, UNC fans. We've got Notre Dame. As fans, Mel Tucker's gone. So that's basically the story.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all. People were going to make lots of comments about it. I'd pretty much try to stay out of that stuff. So just in terms of the basic mechanics of it, probably about in a month or so it's going to happen. But my suggestion is, we could 2 birds with 1 stone this thing. Hey, we have ourselves a tried and true Big Ten West winning offensive coordinator over here that could use a position. You want him, Michigan State?
Oh,
You could have 2 Ferences as head coaches in the conference.
Nah, that's not going to happen. I don't think so. I'm not being provincial. I'm being serious. I think Joe Rossi's going to be a candidate for that job because he's got Michigan recruiting experience. He was with Fleck at Western Michigan. He's a beast. He's an absolute beast. Is he Parker level? Does he have Parker resume? No. He's a level down from that. But he's right there. They all, I think he was listed as number 8, the 8th best assistant coach going, whatever, coordinator. His phone lines are going to be lighting up after this year because the Gophers, once again, the defense seems to be really, really, really good. I know it's only 2 games in the season, but they just, they don't make mistakes. He's a great communicator. So we'll see. I hope, he's going to leave. I think everyone says, even the people I talk to associated with the University of Minnesota, he's going to get a job. Now he wants a Power 5 job, but he'll take a G5 job. So if he's going to leave, heck, he might as well go to Michigan State. So, I can watch him and everything, but we'll see what's on that hot board list here in another month.
That job is going to go up in value considerably next year because you're no longer going to be forced to play Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State every year.
That and the big media money that's coming in. So
big media money. You're not going to have as bad of a schedule as you've had with them, and a chance to actually do something good there. Michigan State, maybe people don't realize it because they've been kind of down for a while here, but that is a well-funded and a great job, and that's a big one. So I'm looking, if I'm at that place who I'm looking at, since they're doing this interim thing, I think that they're looking at the offensive coordinator at Colorado.
Ooh,
that guy was a head coach at
Sean Lewis.
He has head coach experience.
And he was great. And he was great.
Showing that offensively, he has got a great mind.
Yes.
So I think that he's probably number 1 on the list for people are looking at for head coaches next year.
Yes, that's a very good point. And those who follow MAC football like I do, Sean Lewis, there is, he's got all the credibility in the world. He is very well respected. It was a surprise he took the offensive coordinator position at Colorado. I think
he must have seen it.
Well, I think he just wanted to say, I think he wanted to kind of experiment, like, does my stuff work at the Power 5 level? And it does. He can be a head coach at a Power 5 job next year. If he wants it, we'll see what happens.
Well, I think he has more positioning for that job next year for any head coaching job he wants next year by doing this than he would if he would have stayed at Kent State. And they were a scoring machine at Kent State, but you're just not getting the visibility and you're not getting the attention. Whereas now everyone's attention is going to be on him because he's the guy running this offense. And
now, Jeff Beaver in the chat says, Mike Elko on line 1. Mike Elko on line 1. Doing a great job at Duke. They're 2-0. He'd probably be a candidate. I don't think Willie Fritz would be a candidate, because Willie Fritz basically has said in public more than a few times, this is it. Tulane is it for me. He's not doing anything else but Tulane until he retires. We'll see what happens there.
Last thing, though, before I let someone else take over and I grab myself something to eat here. Nebraska. I get that, everyone is now comparing everything to Prime. But Rule put all of his chips in the pot for that 5-star quarterback out of Arizona. I don't know if people remember that at all. He had ties to Nebraska, family ties, and yet somehow last second Georgia, it's Georgia now. So they
You're talking about the Raiola kid.
Raiola.
Yeah.
They had him. They probably thought dead to rights, we got this guy. And if they would have got him, people have been saying this Rule hiring was genius. And unfortunately, they lost in the last second, basically.
Yeah.
So I think that, they'll be fine, and they'll pick, maybe not shoot quite so high, this coming year, and they'll go for a quarterback, and they'll get them. I think that they'll be fine. Personally, I'm worried about rule-led Nebraska in the Big Ten and actually be going back to what they were, because they're going to have plenty of NIL money. They're going to be able to do the transfer portal.
Yep.
People just need to not expect it to be first year. That's all.
Yeah.
But that's it on that, man. I figure I'll let you go on that one.
All right.
Call in and get you that information about the October 5th thing, because I think that's pretty vital.
Yeah, that is a very interesting point. October 5th. So they're not going to be an official firing until at least October 5th, October 6th. That is important. Yep. Thank you, Immaculate. Appreciate it.
Have yourself a good one, buddy.
All right, Mr. Hot Guy. All right, phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Give us a call here, peek around the corner, 763-260-1333. Talk about anything you want. Mel Tucker suspended, probably, most definitely going to get fired October 5th, October 6th.
Call from
Steve.
Steve is on the line, Mr. Cincinnati Bearcat. What is going on? That secondary, that shut down the Pittsburgh Panthers passing offense.
Yeah, the secondary's not bad. They're kind of young. There's one kid back there that they kind of went after. He's young, but he's talented. But I don't know if there'll ever be another secondary like Cincinnati had a couple years ago.
Yeah,
Three of them are playing in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I just thought I'd throw that in there, but
that's a great point, Greg, because they do have some talent back there. Where their talent lies is the defensive coordinator, Brown. He's one of the top 10 defensive coordinators by a lot of publications in college football right now, and they just have some beasts on the front line, on the defensive line. Corey Lowen, I can't ever say his name. The Godfather, Corleone, and Briggs. I mean, those guys are men. They started a freshman on the offensive line last night for Pitt, and that poor kid, gone up against those two guys, had a pretty rough night, really. But besides that, regarding the Michigan State thing, I don't have sources, but I know people who are connected to Michigan State. Obviously, you're reading the publications where D'Antonio's probably going to come back for the rest of the season. He's going to be associate head coach or whatever title you want to give him.
Yep, I saw that. Yep.
And I talked to one person who said that to bring some stability back for a few years, Pat Narduzzi from Pitt.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
No, I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do it either.
I wouldn't do it. But man, there's just some things that have went on at that university for the past few years that you gotta bring some people back for stability. I see that part, and that was the word the person used, to bring back some stability.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know if that would ever happen. It wouldn't be my first choice, obviously. I don't think it'd be a lot of other people's first choice. But that's what this person suggested to me may happen. But we'll see. Because there's a lot of other young, you were talking about the young man from Kent State.
Sean Lewis.
He's going to be on everybody's
list.
Yeah. He's going to be on everybody's list.
Yeah.
That's looking for a head coach. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But D'Antonio did recruit some of these kids that are playing right now. So he is familiar with them. It's not like he's walking into something that, that's, on the field that he's got to refamiliarize himself with. So, maybe he can bring some stability for the rest of the season anyhow. But if this thing's going to go on for a month, I don't know how it can't be a deterrent to the everyday football operations, both on the field and off. I don't know how you escape that right now.
Yeah. It's this is really going to set back the program, the football program.
You would think so.
Yeah.
You would really think so.
Yeah.
But anyhow, Greg, just thought I'd call in, and like I said, it's not sources. None of this is gospel.
Yep.
This is just people connected that I know, and have been connected for a long time. And one of them made a joke as we were talking. He goes, "You're going to laugh at this." He goes, "But you can't believe within that athletic department the pull that Tom Izzo has. Doesn't matter what sport. Doesn't matter."
Yeah.
So,
I believe it.
That's kind of an interesting angle, but it's probably there. So anyhow,
interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Mr. Bearcat. Thanks for the phone call. See you later, buddy.
All right. Take care.
Steve, Mr. Bearcat, Cincinnati goes 2-0. Big road win. Great call. Yeah, Tony, I see you put up please not PJ. Boy, I hope PJ is not a candidate for that job. PJ Flex, incredible job at Western Michigan. He recruits very good at Michigan, in the state of Michigan. If you need proof of that, if you need any more proof of that, just look at Darius Taylor, the true freshman running back for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, who lit it up last year as a senior in high school in the state of Michigan. 4-star recruit. Hold on one second.
Call from
JD.
JD, can you hold on one second?
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Just going to finish my thought here. Darius Taylor blows up in his senior year in high school, gets to a 4-star. At the end of his recruiting cycle, he committed early to Minnesota. At the end of the recruiting cycle, Jim Harbaugh offers him as their third Michigan running back in this 2023 class. And then Michigan State offers Darius Taylor. Thank goodness Darius Taylor said, no, I think I want to be RB1 for Minnesota. And he's a true freshman. He was an early enrollee. All the reports, everything I saw, he dominated in practice. First game out of the gate against Nebraska, got the ball one time. You saw Minnesota struggle throughout the whole game. And then I don't know how many yards he ended up with yesterday in his second college football game. About 190 some yards rushing. He looked dynamic. Now they were against Eastern Michigan, I understand that, but they gave him the rock over 30 times, and he ran like the Darius Taylor would think he's going to be. My point is, PJ Fleck has had 8 years of picking out great talent in the state of Michigan, and you better believe Michigan State will have PJ Fleck somewhere on their hot board. I just hope there's not a connection. Anyways, JD, Mr. Seminole, the floor is yours. What do you got to say, good sir?
All right, sir, Mr. Greg the Heater. I was calling in to take the L because I made it a point to call in the other day that do not trust Mario, do not trust the Canes, and they won. So I don't know whether that's the Canes have turned the corner a little bit or Jimbo's just done. I don't know. If you look at Jimbo's press conference, I think he's just done. And, one thing you know about Jimbo throughout the years, he's going to win one he shouldn't. He's going to lose one he shouldn't. and then the rest of the season will be about what the team is. And I don't know. He just looks kind of defeated, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he's defeated. I think they missed. I think they've. There's always some I call them high calorie guys, right? Guys who are like 4 stars, mid 4 stars, who really shouldn't be ranked that high. And Jimbo seems to be the guy who gets them, right? Where other schools kind of say, they're not all that, and they stay away. But Jimbo jumps in with both 2 feet. And then we talked about in your last phone call how now they did score 33 points. So their offense did some stuff yesterday. But Jimbo's offense is kind of it doesn't work anymore. Supposedly he's giving that over to Bobby Petrino. It's early in the year, but Jimbo Fisher's got to be on the hot seat here. And I think it's going to only get hotter as they enter into SEC football.
Well, I'm not tied in with the A&M program at all, but I know at the end of his FSU days, the locker room was a mess. There was no family atmosphere. He had lost the locker room. He lost it, and he was able to get a little bit of a fire in that second to last year. The last year, he resigned towards the end of the year, but I don't really, I guess you'd consider that the last year. But the year before, they had a pretty successful season by most people's standards. But he had just lost the locker room. And you hear about last season at A&M, all these players transferring out, discontent in the locker room. It's like he was just chasing stars.
Yeah.
He wasn't necessarily chasing the right fit. And I brag on Norvell all the time. Norvell will turn away a 5-star if he doesn't think he's a good fit for the team. If he's a problem, you're not bringing him in. Denver Harris, wasn't he at A&M last year?
Who?
And then isn't his name Denver Harris, that DB that, I think his name is Denver Harris. He transferred to LSU, and I think he transferred from Texas A&M, and he was supposedly a 5-star. He didn't play last week. He's kind of either off the team or dropped back in the depth chart because he's been starting fights. He's just creating havoc. And, you had a lot of those players on the Texas A&M roster last year.
Yes.
So you don't know how much of that is still there. But I just noticed somewhere Jimbo lost his mojo. But again, I can't take anything away from Miami because they won the game.
Yeah.
As much as I hate to say it, being a Knoll, they had a big win, and we'll find out what they are, and I think our game's early November, I believe. So we'll find out what they are then. But yes, sir, I had to take the L. I took the.
I do it every show.
How wrong you were.
I do it every show. This show, what was my L? Deion Sanders. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm
That's
a little
the way it
mixed
is.
up. I think Deion's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Jeff Sims was supposed to go to Florida State, and
Who
Mike
was?
Norvell. Sir.
Who was supposed to go to Florida State?
Jeff Sims.
Okay, yeah, wow.
He was supposed to go to Florida State, and when Norvell took over, he didn't pull the scholarship offer, but he said, I'm not sure you're the – he was respectful to the kid. He just said, we are going to recruit other quarterbacks. And then Jeff Sims pulled it and went to Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
But he's got all the talent in the world. He just can't get out of his own way. And – you never want to say one player single-handedly lost a game. Now, I'm not taking away from Colorado because they played.
Yeah.
Once they got through that first quarter and a half, they played really well. But it's just I've never seen a collapse like that I can remember from a player. And, I hope the kid turns it around at some point.
there was a player long ago, and I can't remember who the opponent was, but they just imploded during the game. And it was a Florida State quarterback named Charlie Ward. Do you remember there was one game that he had where he couldn't do, like, he was fumbling the ball, he was tripping on his own feet. Had a pretty good, interesting career, at least, at Florida State. Do you remember that at all? Are you too young? I don't.
No, I'm 49, and
okay, so
coincidentally, Charlie Ward went to my high school. So
okay. But he did have one game where it was just. I'm going to have to try to look at his game logs and try to figure it out for the next live show. One game where he just imploded.
Charlie was the OG of the modern style offense. He was one of the first ones to ever do it.
Yeah.
All these guys out there that are doing the RPOs and all the rest of that. I mean, he was one of the first ones that you stuck him in the shotgun and it was a run pass option. And but yes sir. But I do remember. I don't remember which game it was, but I do remember that it was the next week or the week after he came back and just lit the world on fire, and then that was all she wrote.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yes, sir. I thought I'd call in. Oh, I was going to tell you one thing, and I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Yeah.
After the FSU Board of Trustees meeting the other day, one of the guys from the Osceola, which is a rivals group, got Peter Collins and asked him a few questions, and one of the things that they did ask him about realignment, and he just said, don't expect to hear any announcements or any public statements concerning realignment from FSU till after the season.
Got it.
So the whole group seemed really confident. When you talked about negotiations last week, I think the negotiations have been going along, and I think the framework is already in place. That's what I believe, but I'm sure there's details still to work out. But
on December 26, 2022, the person we know, Booster, Florida State Money Perch, told we were going to do a whole live show on it, but then I was asked to stand down, and we stood down at most of it. But on that live show, we said, and then we said it again on March 31st, and another live show about Florida State. It was going to be the first quarter of 2024. That's when it was going to happen. And so, it looks like that is the plan that they had, and that's probably when they pulled the trigger on something.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And I think you hear little whispers that things are so much farther along than any of us know. Like I said, I'm not saying that it's this way. I just won't be surprised if we already know where we're going, and we know the time frame, and a lot of the details are worked out. They're having to work out a few other details, but we'll find out. But I expect you're right. After the season's over, we'll start hearing some more.
Yeah.
But
all righty, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Seminole. Appreciate it. Call again. John B., thank you. John Till, Nebraska should have gone eye-tight, run bootlegs. Nebraska couldn't even successfully do a center to quarterback exchange in that game. They couldn't even get a guy in motion without the snap when Jeff Sims was in shotgun, without the snap hitting the guy in motion, the tight end. And that almost happened in the game against Minnesota the first week. They're having problems with just the simplest execution.
Call from
Anthony, thanks for calling. The floor is yours. What do you got to say?
Hi, Greg. Greg, I'm a Hurricane fan. I am happy we won.
Yes.
I'm not getting too excited on the win. I'm not getting. I'm looking at both the wins for Miami and Florida State against LSU and Texas A&M. For me, I felt those teams they didn't really deserve to be in the top 25. Really, like, they were where LSU was rated. They really didn't deserve to be in the top 10 at all.
Yeah.
And Texas A&M really, based on their performance last year, they didn't deserve to be in the top 25 at all either. So I felt we got good wins, but these teams were overrated coming into the season, in my honest opinion.
All right. And I would agree with you. They were overrated. Two Miami, Florida opponents. Miami, Ohio. I thought they were going to be much better. But I kind of think, I was on the right side of this game. But, Miami, Florida, I'm a little surprised that you couldn't run the ball better against Texas A&M, because I love your running back room. That's where Tyler Van Dyke has had two very good games to start the season, right? But your Henry Parrish, Donald Chaney, who I love, who's not getting the ball now for some reason. I think he's healthy. Isn't he finally healthy?
Yeah, he's finally healthy, but what's happening is we're giving our young freshman running back that we got last year a little bit more playing time, because Don Chaney has a track record of getting injured, and we don't want him. We're saving him for, I think, for me, as a Hurricane fan, what's happening, I think we're going to have him play more against teams like FSU and Clemson.
Okay.
And, wait till the later part of the season when we're competing to get into the later part of the season, when it's solidified that we might be competing for a playoff spot or something like that, if that's even possible, realistically.
You guys have A.J. Allen in the running back room as well.
Yeah, we have A.J. Allen, we have Henry Parrish, we have Mark Fletcher, and we have Chris Johnson.
So,
Two freshmen?
Yeah.
Three freshmen, actually. Three freshmen and two seniors.
Yeah, so, I think your offense is set for I think the Miami, Florida Hurricanes are going to be real good this year. I think you're all set up. I don't want to put the jinx on you guys, but I think you're ready to roll. I think you're ready to compete. I said Clemson's...
I have two recommendations for the replacement. Who just got fired?
Mel Tucker?
Yeah, Mel Tucker. I got two.
Got it.
Doug Belt, the DC from Houston, or John Embry, the tight end coach from the Chargers, the 49ers.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
All right.
I think for me, a school like, I feel a school like Michigan State might need a pro, like a head coach, a position coach from the NFL or a defensive coordinator from the NFL to be their head coach, to establish like an actual good program culture and stuff like that.
Okay.
There must be some serious issues there that they have to fire Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker was setting up a good culture the past few years.
Yeah.
What do you think? Did they say why they suspended him and fired him?
Well, they've suspended him, but
they didn't fire him.
No, they didn't fire him, but he's going to get fired. It's a legal process, right? They have to get all their ducks in a row. So he's suspended, and then October 5th, October 6th, they're going to put out their findings and investigation. And then he's not going to coach another game at Michigan State. The one thing I will say is, in regards to who do you think is going to be the next, I haven't done the hot board list yet. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. But you
agree with me that they might need an NFL position?
No, I respect the your how you're going with that. I kind of I'm sort of the opposite though. I think they need a guy who really understands, doesn't need to be taught, who really understands Title IX, who really understands everything about the student athlete in the college setting, and make sure and more importantly, have the new head coach have a staff that runs a tight ship. I think they need a guy
also
who's really.
For me, I think.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say this too, and I'm going to say this too, Greg. I think for Michigan State to be successful, I think they need to have a staff and a head coach that understands how to recruit that. I don't think Mel Tucker knew how to recruit that area that well, like that Ohio, Michigan, that tri-state area around Michigan, and like that Midwest area for some reason. When it came to recruiting,
Yeah.
they need to hire a coach that knows how to recruit that area and stuff like that.
Yeah. I haven't really formulated a hot board list, but I think we'll get to that pretty soon here at PATC, and we'll see what happens. Other than the fact,
who said Elko? Who said Elko would be a good coach?
well, somebody in the
Someone
chat. Somebody in the chat had
I-
listed Mike Elko, and I think he should be a candidate, no question about it.
Yeah, no, and that's for me. You should look at coaches who are at places like a Houston or something like that, or a Duke, or maybe the defensive Juan Ruggiero, if you know who that is, offensive coordinator at the head coach at Wake Forest. How about him?
He has mentioned he doesn't want to leave Wake Forest, so we'll see.
No, I'm talking about the offensive coordinator. They need an offensive-minded coach.
Yeah.
At I don't want the Antonio seems to be very out of touch when it comes to how the offenses are running or defenses are running. His defense is way too old school and stuff like that. Do you agree?
Sure. What I'm going to be, when I put out my hot board list 1.0 for the Michigan State head coaching job, I'm going to lean heavily on candidates who have some success recruiting in the state of Michigan. If you don't have a history in recruiting in the state of Michigan and Big Ten, I don't think you're going to get that job. So that's how I'm going to weigh my hot board list.
You might put a lot of coaches assistant coaches from like Ohio State, Notre Dame, or something like that.
Yep.
Coaches like that.
Yep.
Who's a defensive coordinator at? Who's the coordinator at the DC at Notre Dame? Do you know who that is?
I think that's Al Golden, isn't it?
Not no. How about? Do you think?
I thought it was Al Golden. I thought Marcus Freeman hired Al Golden. I'm not. I'm.
Yeah. Well, do you think Marcus Freeman would leave?
No. No. Nobody leaves Notre Dame job unless they get fired. And he's not getting fired.
Because I think he's from that Michigan area.
It don't matter.
Stuff like that.
No, you don't leave the Notre Dame job.
You only leave if you get fired.
Yes.
Like you said?
Yes.
Have a good day.
Yeah. All right. Oh, I didn't know he was on the call. Thank you. Great call. Thank you so much. You don't leave Notre Dame to go anywhere. Nothing against Michigan State. Marcus Freeman, he's not going to Michigan State. Okay. Let's get to the comments. A lot of people throwing elbows around when it comes to Colorado and Deion Sanders and what coach has said what negatively about Colorado and Deion Sanders taking everybody everything seriously or personally and put it up as bulletin board. Woo! A lot of drama.
Call from
Mowing.
Mr. Buckeye. Mowing Vision is on the line. The floor is yours. What's going on? Wait, first of all, Mowing, can you hold on 1 second?
Yeah.
John Teal, thank you for your super chat. I appreciate, again, your ongoing generosity to the channel. Northwestern passed on David Shaw. Maybe Michigan State. I'll be very interested to hear what Mowing Vision has to say about this. But again, when we do our hot board 1.0, it's going to be, the candidates are going to be those who have shown some success in recruiting, in knowing the recruiting grounds of the state of Michigan. And I don't know if David Shaw has that. Mowing Vision, the floor is yours. What do you got to say?
Well, for starters, I don't know that Northwestern really passed on David Shaw.
Yeah.
They hired an interim, so I think we'll find out in the offseason.
Yes, yeah, good point.
What way they're going. But just getting back, you told the last caller nobody leaves Notre Dame. Well, what about Brian Kelly?
Yeah. Well, good point.
So,
Good point.
some people do leave Notre Dame,
Okay.
and for good reason. So but it's not an impossibility. Not that I think Freeman would leave there. I don't think Freeman would leave there. They may fire Freeman, but I don't think he would leave there.
Good point. You got me there. You got me. Brian Kelly. No question about it. I take the L on that. That's my second L today so far.
But
he did.
I mean, obviously, the funniest thing would be if Michigan State went and took Deion Sanders away from Colorado. Literally just poach two Colorado coaches back to back.
Yeah.
I'm sure that would be, they'd make friends doing that. But it's a terrible situation, and you're right. Regardless of, he admitted to what he did, and it's enough to be a fireable offense.
Yeah.
You know, obviously her story's a little bit different, and I tend to, maybe believe her story a little more. But even if you believe his story, he's got to go. Got to go. Now, the argument's going to be is it with cause? Yes. He's obviously going to say, oh, no, it was consensual, so it can't be with cause. So I think you're probably going to end up with a settlement in there somewhere. Michigan State's not going to get out from under that entire guarantee that they owe him. They're still going to have to pay that man. Mm-hmm. Pay that man some money.
Yeah.
I did want to mention the Nebraska game.
Yeah, I got to mention something. I got to mention something to you as well. You go ahead, all right, but I got to take a shot at you for something you said on the Big 12 Rival Show. That is immaculate. Monovision, Nathan Brown, Wild Oot. You guys do such a great job on the Big 12 Rival Show. But I was listening to your program. You said something, and I had to spit out a whole bunch of Diet Coke after you made a certain statement. But go ahead, say what you got to say first.
Okay. Matt Rule is overrated as a head football coach. You're not convincing me otherwise than that. He had one Cinderella season at Baylor. I don't want to hear this. He's a program builder. You don't build a program by going into the season without a quarterback, which is clearly what they did.
Yeah.
I have not seen an off. I mean, literally, he's in a division with Iowa. He somehow has a worse offense than Iowa.
Yeah.
How? How do you not get a quarterback in the transfer portal? How?
Well, they did. It was Jeff Sims.
Well, yeah, but I mean, how do you get a good quarterback?
Yeah.
Right?
No,
a good quarterback. Yeah. I mean, you've got the money there. I mean, there's the money in the NIL. So
yes.
They helped.
Yeah.
They did a great job against Colorado for 2 quarters, but that defense, while good and stout, can't do everything for that team. And that's in the second half. That's where you just saw that breakdown. They just completely gassed. there was nothing else they could do. And I felt bad for them because I'm saying those kids are going out there playing their hearts out, and that offense is just giving them no help. And I'll be quite honest with you, on some of those plays, there were guys taking plays off on the offense. So it was disheartening. But Ohio State, we have our quarterback. It's Kyle McCord. Our offensive line looked a lot better this week.
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is still the best receiver in college football.
Yeah. And I started the show, Kyle McCord's getting comfortable. That's bad news for the rest of the Big Ten.
Yeah, well, the offense pass blocking this week, but I wanted to really call and touch. Did you watch any of that Washington State-Wisconsin game?
I watched a little bit of it, but before we get into that, I got to give my elbow back at you at something. Okay?
Right, okay.
Now, I'm watching you guys' show. I'm just innocently in the studio in front of my monitor. You guys are breaking down week 1 games. You get to Nebraska, Minnesota. Yeah, it was ugly. Yeah, and then you said you believe Nebraska has more upside this year than my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. And I spat out a bunch of Diet Coke all over my desk. And here's my point, and I'm going to say this. The Minnesota Golden Gophers are much younger than Nebraska. The Minnesota Golden Gophers, Nebraska's an old team. That's one of the reasons why Matt Rule couldn't really flip the roster like at the end. They've got a bunch of guys who weren't going to leave in their last year. Their whole defense is going to change the next year. Their defense is actually going to take a step back. Tony White's a great defensive coordinator, but they're an old team. The Gophers are young. This Gopher team's in transition. Darius Taylor just played. I know it was against Eastern Michigan, but the true freshman just ran for 190-some yards. Nebraska don't have a Darius Taylor on their roster. Jeff Sims ain't close to 8th in Cadillac Mattis. Jeff Sims went into that Minnesota game with 600 and some passing attempts. 8th only had a little bit over 100. Minnesota is a much more upside than Nebraska for this year. Now, the question is, does Minnesota have enough to challenge Iowa or what you're about to bring up, the Wisconsin Badgers? Does Minnesota have enough to challenge for the Big Ten West title? That's still very much in question. But Minnesota Golden Gophers have much bigger upside than the Nebraska Cornhuskers. There, I threw my elbow back at Mr. Buckeye. What do you got to say about that?
Well, let's be honest here, Greg. You had to beat them with the last-second field goal. So
yes, last-second field goal.
51-49. Let's not act like the Minnesota Golden Gophers are world beaters.
No question about it. They're not world beaters. They needed Nebraska to implode. My point is this. PJ Fleck teams always start slow. When they went 11-2, their first 3 games were bloody miracles. But then they got on a roll and they dominated teams. Look, this could be the same. Although it's a transition. I'm talking upside for this year. You're not going to get much more juice out of this Nebraska team. But the Minnesota Golden Gophers, there's a whole lot of juice ready to go. Again, Minnesota was a lot younger than Nebraska going into that game 1. And they found a way to win. Okay, it was lucky. They're not world beaters. But if you play Nebraska and Minnesota 3 weeks from now, we take them down by 2, 3, 4 touchdowns. That's my point. But anyways, go ahead. Wisconsin.
Well, in regards to the Wisconsin-Washington State game, I wanted to talk about the officiating. Did you happen to see either that there was a safety that they ruled was not a safety?
Yes.
Which I cannot. I've rewatched that play a dozen times. You're never going to convince me that wasn't a safety.
Yes.
That changes the outcome of the game.
Yes.
There was a fumble. That wasn't a fumble. The guy's elbow was down. You couldn't see it, and instead of the refs coming and saying, well, we can't see, we better rule in favor of the refs say, well, we ruled it a fumble on the field, so that means it's fumble on the field. Changes the game. Both those plays lost Wisconsin that game. Which brings me to my point. The officiating, the first 2 weeks of this college football season has been some of the worst officiating across the board.
Yeah.
And not just in that game, in that Texas A&M Miami game. What the hell is targeting anymore? Because I have no idea. I mean,
yeah.
I'd be afraid to tackle anybody at this point because there was a kid from Miami that laid a lick on a kid from Texas A&M, and you've got the rules specialist saying, well, that's flagrant targeting. That's flagrant targeting. Then the refs come back and say, no targeting. And it's like, well, what the hell is targeting? I mean, it's just, I think that we need to get away from conference refs. And I'll obviously rant a little more on this on Nate's show where I can be less family friendly, but really, we need to come to some kind of uniform standard on officiating, whether it involves putting a grid out on the field to determine what a safety is. Because if that's not a safety, I don't know what a safety is. That's not a targeting. I don't know what a targeting is. I don't know what a catch is anymore. I don't know what a football move is anymore.
Yeah, that's another one. Yep.
You know, the NFL's put this cute little thing on there that says, the NFL scripted, ha, ha, ha. It's not people saying the NFL scripted. It's saying that you allow refs to push the game one way or the other. When they make moments, it can push a game one way or the other. And that's exactly what happened in that Washington State-Wisconsin game.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
Wisconsin probably scores and wins the game.
Probably.
Yeah. So, I mean, just unbelievably bad officiating. I wish that somebody would address this. I mean, it's bad enough it's happened early in the season, but I think we saw it happen at the end of last season as well in both the CFP semifinals. There was clearly some calls that should have been called that would have helped Michigan win that game, and there was clearly, you're never going to convince me it wasn't targeting on Marvin Harrison in the end zone against Georgia. If that's not targeting, I don't know what is.
Great point. Great.
Defenseless receiver, but apparently, according to the Pac-12 officials in our game, it wasn't. Something has to happen here at some point, because if we don't get these officials to be on the same
page,
terrible calls.
Yeah.
You're going to lose too many fans.
Yeah.
You're just going to lose too many fans. If I was a Wisconsin fan, I'd be livid.
Who does the Buckeyes play next week?
Western Kentucky.
Okay, Western Kentucky. Now, the Minnesota Golden Gophers play North Carolina at North Carolina. So, we'll have the same conversation. We'll extend this conversation into next week after the game at North Carolina. And I think Mo and Vision and most of the people in the chat room are going to be a little shook, a little bit surprised at the result of that game. Why Joe Rossi's defense comes in North Carolina and shuts down Drake May. How do you like those apples? Huh? How do you like them apples?
I'll leave you with this, Greg. The hen doesn't cackle till after she's laid the egg, brother. So you might want to walk that back, because I think North Carolina might put a little show.
I'm not walking anything back. I am sold, signed, sealed, and delivered. The Golden Gophers go down to North Carolina and shock the world.
Well, good luck to you, Greg.
All right, man.
Take it easy, man.
Appreciate it, Mr. Buckeye. Great call by Monovision once again, setting me straight. Monovision is setting me straight. Somebody has to set me straight. Somebody has to speak a little bit of realism into me, because you're not going to get it out of me. Gophers are going down to North Carolina. Big old defensive line. Now we've got some reps with our back seven, guys who haven't played a whole lot of Power 5 football. Now they're getting ready. They're getting all lathered up. And Darius Taylor Darius Taylor's going into North Carolina, true freshman running back, and he's going to put a hurting on that ACC defense. When's the last time PJ Fleck has lost to a Power 5 opponent? Ask the Minnesota Golden Gopher head coach. When's the last time PJ Fleck has lost to a Power 5 opponent outside of the Big Ten? Let me ask that question one more time so Moavision, Immaculate, and the rest of the people in the Big Ten chat hear this. When is the last time PJ Fleck has lost a non-conference game to a Power 5 opponent? The answer, he hasn't. He hasn't lost to anybody. He beaten West Virginia Big 12. He beat Oregon State Pac-12. He's defeated Auburn SEC. The list goes on and on and on and on. So we're going to surprise people down in North Carolina. We're going to be doing Now, here's another announcement. Richard Salinos says Golden Gophers will beat North Carolina, period. Enough said. Richard's my guy, at least for this week. Listen. Or I don't know if he's agreeing with me or I don't know who's agreeing with me. It don't matter. Look, listen to me. The situation is here, we couldn't do a watch party this Saturday. We went to my beautiful niece's wedding. It was a great event. My mother was there at the event. I put it out on Twitter. My father is in his last days here in his earthly journey. He's taken great comfort and care, but he is we are in his last days. So I was going to go to a wedding, a very important wedding, a very important close friend of mine, Daniel Leonard, and his great fiance, beautiful Michelle. I was going to go to their wedding way up at the Canadian and Minnesota border for next Saturday. I won't be able to attend. Regardless of the timing of my father, I just won't be able to make it up there. We're too busy. And quite honestly, I'm exhausted. And you guys, and I don't need to go into that, but it's very exhausting. And I don't even know if I'm able to make the drive up north, regardless of the timing of the funeral and all that stuff. So, we're not going, and we'll see. There is a chance, a good chance. I think we're going to be doing the watch party, North Carolina, Minnesota. For those who are interested, come in this Saturday. We'll talk about it more this next week. But I've been saying for months we can't do a watch party third week in September, but it looks like we'll pull that off. In regards to my father, I'm going to be doing a very special episode when he does his last when he plays his last hole here in his earthly vessel. So I'm going to be releasing a very special episode and dedicated to my father, and it'll probably happen this week as well. So I'm going to be shutting this live show down. I appreciate you all for coming in, for all your comments, for your wonderful support, especially in the last few months where I have been so busy, and it's been very difficult for all of you in the PATC community to know when we're coming on, to keep track of what the heck's going on here, because I have not been able to put a decent schedule together. That's probably going to change here in the future, where we're going to actually be able to tell you when we're coming on each and every day. But that is for the future. So I appreciate your support so very much. And tomorrow, we're going to be talking about next week games. We're going to be talking about who we're going to take against the spread. We're going to be talking about some big storylines. The Mel Tucker stuff, yes. But other big storylines that are starting to percolate. Alabama, the fans, Notre Dame, they're feeling good about themselves. So We're going to be talking about next week games tomorrow. Yes, we'll be coming on. And I can't wait. I'm all fired up for college football week number 3. Until next time. From all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.